You're listening to the A to Z of Human Performance live show weekdays at 13:30 GMT with Chris Lissaman and resident expert Jonna Sercombe. Please enjoy responsibly. Well, please enjoy Chris Lissaman responsibly. Happy Monday, Chris. Here we are back at it.
Happy Monday, Jonna. It's our 6th show. Can you believe it? We're 6 in already, 6 of 20.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
It's amazing if you do something consistently, how time flies.
It does. We made it a routine, which is great. And of course, we're calling it a live show. This is recorded live, not strictly live, but recorded live.
It's Monday.
Can we get away with that?
We're cheating. It's recorded live because I had a diary conflict. So I had to find a workaround. Is that okay with you?
I think that's okay. I think, isn't everything live at the time?
It is. Well, it's live when we're recording it now.
It's live.
So what's today's topic then?
Today's topic, I'm excited to get stuck into this. We've got flexibility, freedom, and fun all together in one chapter. So much to go for there.
Is it like yoga and jokes?
Don't think it's yoga and jokes, but
freedom.
We got the soundboard there. That's a badum-tish, I think.
It's the letter F. Yeah, no.
There we go.
Shot. Great, yeah. Well, it is.
No yoga coming up, but we do have some interesting questions. I'm sure there'll be some good chat as well. But of course, if you missed last week's shows, they're all on our website, interactiveworkshops.com. So check them out there and subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss a show. Jonna, let's get stuck into flexibility, freedom, and fun. Flexibility was something we needed a lot last year. Freedom, we didn't have so much of that. And fun, the less said, the better. How do high performance and these topics go together?
Did you not have any fun last year, Chris?
A bit of fun, but it wasn't quite as fun as I thought it might be.
Freedom?
Not so much.
No. Well, let's just look back at attitude and belief. I think we should start with beliefs. When we're locked in our own homes or when we're trapped in a job, what freedoms do we have? And it's an intellectual question, isn't it? Freedom is the open window through which pours the sunlight of the human spirit and human dignity, said Herbert Hoover. And we are privileged in the West, certainly, to have some incredible freedoms. And we've seen what happens when we feel like they're taken away. And I think, firstly, let's focus and think, what freedoms do we have? We could focus on what we don't have, but let's focus on what we have. And we talked last week about the freedom to choose, but we do have freedoms. And it's weird, isn't it? When you're constrained to your home, you think, oh, I've lost my freedom, but you still have freedoms within. I mean, I'm thinking about my kids. They don't have as much freedom in my home as I do because I set some rules for them. So they've got less freedom than me. So it's relative. And I think, this time we're in has been challenging, but I think to try and think about this topic, it's actually written in the context of high performance and freedom and self-expression and flexibility is actually really important to people who want to perform at a high level. Partly because we need to enjoy the process of attaining our goals. And if you think about some of the things we discussed last week in previous shows about how to attain high performance, so much of it's about setting out a process and following that. But if then you're like Emma in an Olympic cycle, and it's 4 years, you could be trapped for 4 years in an eat, sleep, repeat, exercise, rest, train, rest, race, rest, train, rest. Yeah, it can be really boring. So you've got to work out, high performers have to work out how to enjoy that process. Yeah,
absolutely. There's got to be a sense of enjoyment in what we're up against, because as high performance, we're going to come up against things all the time. Is this just about being positive through the things we're facing?
Yes and no. I think positivity helps, and relentless positivity as a habit really helps. But to find our freedom, I think we've got to have an understanding of who we are and what we're about. And I like to think about it in terms of where we're at in the world as well. The human mind, we have the ability we actually overplay our significance and we overplay our sense of our ability to control the world. Certain studies have said that if we realized how little we could really control the world, we'd actually have our head would explode and a heart attack and die, akin to falling off a cliff, that sometimes you actually die of a heart attack on the way down from the fear. But if we really realized how out of control we really are and how perhaps insignificant we really are, it would blow our minds. So the human brain, I studied cognitive science, the human brain overplays its significance and overplays its sense of control anyway. And I think if we didn't, we'd feel quite helpless. So it's not just about being positive, but it is about trying to get a grip of where we are in the world. And without being negative, if we were to think that we are relatively insignificant and not as in control as we think, this for me turns life into an adventure. Whether it is the kind of adventure where, you know, people sailed across in boats to America and went west to try and find gold, whether it's like when we go on a holiday or we go on a gap year and we don't know what's going to happen, but we're excited about it, or whether it's like when we try and, you know, start a company, we don't know if it's going to work. So we can actually turn this thought process into a more of a mindset of exploration and adventure. And we know that there's highs and lows in adventures, and we're not actually in control of the outcome. You know, if you try and climb some of the highest mountains in the world, 50% of times you won't succeed. So those guys are used to this feeling that they won't succeed, but they've got to embrace the process. So for me, it's about choosing to enjoy what's happening, even if it's not what we would choose. And that's part of trying to discover this freedom.
So you're saying that in times where we perhaps think we're in control, and perhaps we think we're in control quite a lot of the time, the brain is just projecting that control, and really we're not.
Well, it's part of our survival mechanism. It's like, let's try and take charge of things. And, you know, in ancient times, they used to do rain dances and all kinds of things, giving themselves the illusion that they could control the weather. And I guess if you're in a season where, in a life phase where you needed the crops, you don't want to sit there and say, do you know what, whether it rains or not, it's outside of our control. So like more primitive cultures have developed all kind of rituals to kind of make them think they can control the uncontrollable. The famous King Canute with the sea saying, like, I'm the king, I can stop the waves coming in. But you know, the waves are a good metaphor. And, you know, I see life as a bit of a surf adventure, and to the excitement of being, actually, do you know what, we're out there in the deep, and it's unpredictable. But we can control our actions. We can control whether we swim out or swim back in. We can control whether we jump on our surfboard and ride a wave or choose not to. So I think this kind of mindset helps us to then express ourselves within the big wide world that we're in, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned that in the book as well, the waves being that metaphor. How does that help you in your life to manage what comes up against you?
Well, I do like to surf as well. And I can tell you one story, but when I went out to Barbados to go and surf, I was surfing on a world-class reef break there, and my wife was kindly videoing from the cliff top. And basically she came back with 2 hours of video going, is he, oh no, is he, oh no, I barely caught a wave because I was actually so scared. And you know, I was in an environment that was a bit too big for me, and there was a reef break with consequences. If you fall off, you're going to get smashed on some rocks, and I'm more of a kind of beach break surfer, so that means more of a beginner, Chris. But you know, I think this feeling that, you know, when we're out surfing, we're embracing those challenges, and we're actually going to try and express ourselves in those challenges, and we're going to express ourselves on that wave. But another thing that happens when you're surfing is, you know, sometimes you're trying to take the best wave and you think, oh, I'm going to wait for a bigger one. And then when the bigger one thinks that's a bit too big, I'm going to wait for a smaller one. And when the smaller comes, you think it's a bit too small, I'm going to wait for a bigger one. And I think, again, you know, this can happen to us in our professional life or in our work life, that we're never quite sure which challenges to take. And so we end up abdicating rather than just jumping onto something and riding it all the way to the beach just for the adventure.
That's a really good metaphor. And I think a lot of those waves that are coming at us, a lot of those big challenges, we don't want them, but they're also what propels us to actually catch the wave.
Yeah.
Without the wave, we can't surf.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think, well, I won't take this one because if I do ride all the way to the beach, it's going to be a massive effort to paddle out. And then you realize, you know, I've paddled all the way out to surf, but actually I'm just sitting out here enjoying the sea. So this is kind of slightly about the flexibility, freedom, and fun to choose. And, you know, even in the challenges of business, to choose to enjoy the experience or try and take what you can from the experience, even though it might be difficult.
And you work with clients from all over the world who are requesting things of you daily. How do you still manage to enjoy it when you've got 30 emails coming in a day saying, can you change this about this project? Can you change the dates for this project? Can we do this differently? I've had a great idea. How do you still enjoy it?
Well, it forms part of the high performance belief system. So as an example, you know, there's a study from Constance University, 107 different companies, 15,000 individuals, looking at the performance of those individuals related to their actual age and what their subjective age, which is determined on the question, how old do you feel? How old do you feel, Chris?
22.
How old are you, Chris?
27.
27. So in the study, it showed that actually organizational performance is predicated on this subjective age more than our actual age. And they call it environmental dynamism, actually, the rate at which your workplace or environment is changing. And those organizations that have environmental dynamism, a changing workplace, one that's evolving at tempo, actually correlate with a high performance environment. Those that feel like they're a static environment with a feeling of older age, correlated to a perception of older age, actually don't perform as well, and also have in white collar workers higher absentee rates as well. So this you say, like, how can you have fun in the work environment or in a high performance environment? It's almost like it's a thing that's bolted on as well that you could try to do. And I think actually we see that often with a lot of leaders that we work with, that they try and bolt on the fun. Whereas as a leader, in creating a high performance environment, you need this environmental dynamism. You need the environment itself to be energizing. And so for me, rather than thinking like, how can I have this as well as the things I've got to do? For me, it's a fundamental. It's like, how can I make this environment dynamic, have lots of environmental dynamism, fluidity, change? Like, when we're setting out job roles, we don't have job roles exactly. We instead have assignments, and we turn the work into a 6 months long assignment for a team member. Now, that's an example of creating an environmental dynamism, because what we're saying there is actually this job's going to possibly change in 6 months. So this is where you're at now. This is what we need delivered. So I think, trying to use these kind of open mindsets to make the work an experience and adventure actually helps us to achieve high performance.
And that open mindset is something we really need at the moment as well, because we can't plan ahead for the future. We just don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, the high performance leaders that we work with across organizations at the moment, the ones I've spoken to have said, this is a brilliant opportunity. We can reshape our business. We can experiment with things. Clients won't mind. We can change the way that our businesses goes to market. We can, explore all kinds of different propositions. So some people are seeing the time we're in as a huge opportunity wave, and others are in protective mode, like, oh gosh, this is going to be really difficult. How are we going to survive working from home? If we were really inspirational, we'd say, like, what is the opportunities from working from home? What's good about this problem? How can we turn something that's difficult into something that's fun? How can we turn something that's challenging, something that's going to energize us? I was talking to my mum actually, and she was saying that she's making sure that she takes her walks at lunchtime and does things differently than she might do. That's what we've got to do. We've got to try and find what the best is in this, even if it's extremely challenging.
Yeah, for sure. I think we do. And Jonna, of all the companies you've worked with so many, what have you learned about the role of fun in an organization?
It's one of those double-edged swords, isn't it? No one likes organized fun. So we spoke about this a little bit before about serendipity, and I think the best organizations, a lot of sales organizations need to have a relentless kind of monthly or quarterly pace. The best ones overlay their incentives with experiences, product launches, employee of the month, all these kind of things, but done in a really relational way rather than in a status way. And so organizations that succeed in this area of making fun have this environmental dynamism as part of their core. And I think also they're building for genuine relationships. So they're overlaying work and turning it into a community. And this is really fundamental to a high performance environment, that you're not just turning up and transacting and going home, but you're turning up to belong to a community that's doing something purposeful together. And along the way, the journey of that, you're going to get to know each other and have great experiences together. And through that process, go deeper in your relationships. And that's what's at the core of this kind of environmental dynamism in a workplace or in a high performance team. And again, you can see it in the Premier League. You can go and buy all the best players and pay them massive wages and bring them together. And if they don't actually click and have that fun, then you can pay all the money, and the pundits are looking and going, I don't know why this team that's worth 300 million can't perform. They've got this player, they've got that player. But it's because it's fundamentally human. It's not what you get paid. It's whether you enjoy what you do and whether you enjoy the people that you're along on the ride with.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because we often think about fun as just being a sort of day-to-day, short-term, shallow thing. But actually, you're saying that there's a deeper sense of kind of joy and just enjoyment that is going to make the highest performing team.
Chris, enjoyment is fundamental.
That's awful.
No, that's a great joke.
It's memorable. It's memorable.
The mental.
Yeah. Write that on the wall. Write that on a pencil. How does freedom play its part amongst this? I get the fun, I get the flexibility there. I can see how those affect a high performing team. How does freedom enter the mix?
How philosophical do you want to get, Chris?
I'm willing to get philosophical.
Do you want to get really philosophical?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, around 1000 AD, most countries had a feudal system, and the lord of the manor owned the people who lived on the estate, the barons. And through the Industrial Revolution, mechanization meant that those feudal systems didn't need as many workers. The workers were released, but they were poor, and they became the workforce of the Industrial Revolution. And they moved from belonging and living in the land that they were working on, albeit that the lord of the manor took all the stuff, to working in the Industrial Revolution in offices and factories, getting paid not that much, whilst other people made a lot of money. I'm talking about in the UK here. In fact, the home of the Industrial Revolution. So we weren't free in round one. In round two, we weren't free either, really, but we perceived a bit more free because we weren't owned. But then, the rise of the middle classes is a group of people who have taken ownership of their life. But if you look very deeply in this, and Yanis Varoufakis has written a brilliant book called "Is Economics My Daughter?" But Capitalism My Daughter. But in that book, he explains that once we escape being in the Industrial Revolution, in order for us to build our shop or make our little artisan factory and have a roof over our heads, we have to take out a mortgage, and we need to. The labor force has to borrow the money to earn the money. So where is all this going? This is how we end up with contracts in companies. We basically have to sign up and sign up for something in order to belong and to get paid. And even if you start your own business, you obviously still have clients, and you then you're in contract to them as well. So in philosophical terms, we're never going to be completely free whilst there's contracts and companies. But yet, nobody owns us, and we are free. And I think if you look at how leaders hire people, they should hire the best people they can and bring them in to do the best job they possibly can. Yet sometimes we put too many constraints around people, and it's ironic, isn't it? You could hire someone in and then take away that freedom and tell them, this is what I want you to do. This is what you should do. So if we're what I'm saying is that freedom is in some way, it's in our minds. And if we can act with true freedom in our workplace, then we're likely to get that respect. But if we're a follower of others and we don't act in an empowered and autonomous way, then it's likely that we'll be told what to do, and we'll lose freedoms.
So actually we can embody that freedom and live that freedom, and actually that kind of comes true in a way that it's not coming from outside. We can actually live it.
Yeah, and you watch it with the high performing employees, where the highest performing people don't act like their company owns them. They're extremely loyal, and they will work extremely hard and deliver high performance results, but for themselves. And I think that kind of freedom, that is what it helps you to be energized. It helps you to turn up knowing, hey, do you know what? If I have to leave here tomorrow, I leave here tomorrow. I'm here on my own terms. Whereas, and again, think about an athlete in an Olympic program or in a football team. Imagine if you feel you're there because you're getting paid 180 million, you don't want to be there. You have to be there. You signed a contract, you're there for 4 more years. You can just, Gareth Bale, you can just see that you're not going to get the best. Whereas it's an intellectual, mental activity. I'm here on my own terms. I'm here because I've chosen to be. And if I'm not happy here, I will leave. I think if you take that mentality, that really helps you to be free to express yourself within your work.
Yeah, that's a really valuable mentality to have. I can see how that would turn you into a high-performing individual if you're willing to turn up to work saying, I'm choosing this. This is what I do, and I do it for me, not just because someone else tells me to.
Yeah, some people say you could ask the question, like, what would you do if you didn't get paid? And I certainly take this approach into the deals that we do at work. I wouldn't take on a piece of client work that I couldn't afford not to get paid for, and that we wouldn't enjoy if we didn't get paid. Try and focus in on the work that you would be happy to do anyway, like running the A to Z of Human Performance live show. I would do it on a Sunday night if I had to.
I would too, Jonna.
It's a pleasure.
John, I think that's all we got time for. But just quickly before we go, one of the habituators you mentioned was about swapping your risk to the opposite swapping your wristwatch to the opposite wrist, just as something that feels weird and something you can change up. What are some other ways we can shake up our day-to-day?
Well, that is a super basic habituator, is to just change some things about a working day. Change the way you go to work. Change the time that you start. Have you ever started really early or started really late? I mean, I sometimes sit down at a silly time in the morning, just get some things done. So,
I did at 6 a.m. in lockdown.
Mixing up your routine again. Like, there's a lot of people say you got to get your routine, you got to get all fixed, which is good, but then over time you become stale. So these kind of changes. I don't know if you remember when you were a kid and you changed your bedroom around. Like, you walk in, it's like, oh,
used to love that.
Wow, yeah,
used to love it.
Tell me how you slept the first night after you changed your bedroom around.
Oh, so well.
So well. Yeah.
You love it. Like, it's like an entirely new room, new environment.
So mixing things up is good. And I think also, thinking about how you present yourself to people, so you can have a social impact on others and they will treat you differently if you introduce yourself differently. If you're in a customer service environment, just start playing with your pitch, even change what you wear. And then I think, like, if you want an advanced habituator, break a bit of the rules. And I don't mean the law, but your company or your workplace's next great innovation is the thing that you probably aren't supposed to be doing now. But that at some point others will say, well, oh yeah, Chris started that. And I remember very clearly actually working with one big multinational where they weren't allowed to use LinkedIn for marketing. And I just said to them, like, you just got to start doing it, guys. Don't listen to the internal marketing people. If they really knew what they were doing with marketing, then they would allow you to speak on behalf of your company. And so they did. And then, of course, like, suddenly it became something that everyone had to do. So it went from something you're not allowed to do when enough people started on it. It's like, we're going to make this is something everyone has to do. Yeah. And it had been very clear. So, break a few rules, mix things up. If you do get fired, by the way, that's my old boss said to me, everyone has to get fired once in their career. And I said, have you been fired? He said, no. I said, that's great advice, Sean. Thank you very much. But yeah, mix things up, try and find some areas to push. Maybe say yes when you'd normally say no. And again, this is a big one in terms of giving up our control. There's a great book, the Yes Man, and it was made into a film by Danny Wallace. But I actually spent a period of time kind of trying to practice this. Say yes when you'd normally say no. Say yes to a social invite when you'd normally say no. Say yes to going for a run or a jog with someone else when you might normally say no. Say yes to your kids when you might normally say no. Just taking away some of our kind of boundedness. And I think all of this adds to a kind of this environmental dynamism. And whether it's in our own life, in our home life, in our work life, in our sport life, to try and allow this kind of sense of freedom is really vital.
Those are some great ways we can mix things up. Thanks, Jonna. And thank you.
What are you going to do, Chris? I mean,
what am I going to do?
You've got some habituators there. What rules are you going to break?
I quite like the saying yes or saying no when you normally say yes or no. I quite like that. I'll mix things up.
Yeah, you do say yes a lot though, because you're very, very good at that.
Well, thank you.
I'll
start saying no now.
No,
that'll be your fault. That'll be your fault.
Started. It's terrible. I must say that.
Thanks for joining us. Join us tomorrow for Chapter 7, where we're talking about goals and growth. So if you're looking to develop, you're looking to set some goals for the year, maybe join us then. That will be right up your street. And if you would like to be the guest as well for our show, then do get in touch.
We'd love that. Great stuff tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great Monday.
See you tomorrow.